Hello, I'm CraftyAndy, and this is Crafty Arts, where we art! I figured with these 2 furry themed commissions I got, now would be a good time to share with you the impact of being a furry dad on me. This is not a video about furries as much as it is about not being a complete pansy when it comes to, at the very least, being accepting of your weird, out-of-place self, and at best, being unapologetically, expressively loud about your weird self. We're always told growing up, be yourself. You should be yourself. Just be yourself. When in reality, there is a lot of pressure to be an ideal self. You try and go outside the box of creativity, for example, and next thing you know, you got an army of people coming at you calling you degenerate, and another side of people coming at you calling you problematic. Be yourself, as in just be like everybody else. In case you have some misguided impressions, as far as definitions go, furry is someone who is a fan of non-human animal aesthetics, in whatever form that comes. How mundane, extreme, or erotic it gets from there is up to the individual. That's it. Before I publicly got involved with furries, I was making artwork and making internet videos. At 20 years old, living with my parents, and almost all of my high school friends have disbanded and moved on with their lives. The one I still had, I'll call Frank, was a severe alcoholic. We were trying to do a YouTube show called Straight to DVD, and he would get so blackout drunk that we couldn't even finish the damn movie, let alone talk about it. And then he would sink into some depression and talk about how we will never be as big as some of the other people around that time, like the Spoony one or whatever. I don't want to put all the onus on him. Though I wasn't paying for his booze, I was allowing him to obtain it, and I wasn't slapping the drink out of his hand. Though I never dealt with an alcoholic my entire life until that point, so, hindsight is 20/20. As far as me, there wasn't much going on. I was comfortable, but withdrawn. Outside of that, though, away from prying eyes, I was making artwork of the naughty variety. Of the furry naughty variety. I know this is a sore spot for a lot of furries and why they like to keep things hidden, because it's very awkward and cringy to try to explain that to people. Mainly because of that tinge of shame they have for it, I imagine, that's instilled into them. Or maybe it's just a matter of learning to not give a shit. Unless you're trying to show off your collection of drawings involving dog, animal, people, fucking ostriches. No one's going to give a shit about what you do in your spare time. It's easy to make fun of, but that's just something you're going to have to learn to live with, because anyone can be made fun of about anything. If you dig into anyone's closet, you'll find that we're all fucked up in our own way. It's so ridiculous thinking back on this now, like, why was it such a big deal to me? Why did I concern myself with validation from my immediate family and strangers? Perhaps it was the leftovers from grade school. The experience made me an expert on being silent and parroting popular opinions on things. There were large house parties I would get invited to with my dwindling number of friends and just wander aimlessly, not talking to anyone. What I would consider my dead years was between 18 to 21 years of age. My friends would drag me over to Windsor, Canada, because the drinking age there was 19, and you didn't need a passport to cross the border from Detroit to Windsor, Canada back then. The nights would consist most of the time of my couple of friends that would come with me getting drunk to the point of blacking out. Hence why I wouldn't drink, because that's the only thing I would ever witness from my friends, was getting so drunk they would get kicked out of bars, puking, not making any sense, not remembering half the night the day after. And so when you have friends behaving that way and essentially getting lost in a fucking city in a foreign country, you feel guilty at the idea of possibly losing them or something happening to them, so I stayed sober as much as I could. A lot of times, though, I would just sit in the fucking car and sketch away in my book while they went off to drink and then come back later. Sure, I had okay moments together, singing at karaoke, at times even staying at a hotel and drinking overnight. We even had a vacation in Canada for about 3 days.
Way in the future was so bright, the old neighborhood was so alive, and every kid on the whole damn street was gonna make a big in every beat. Now the neighborhood's cracked and torn, the kids are grown up but their lives are worn. How can one little street swallow so many lives?
I kind of already made the conclusion in my mind that there was no bright future for me, and I just thought I was just some kind of like damaged goods freak that had nothing to look forward to. And when we went out to those bars and places in Canada and house parties, I didn't think I would ever find anyone I could even relate to. I didn't want to try, because I was always so hung up on the idea of being judged, or rather not ever running into anyone that could understand me in any way or accept me and my weirdness. I had one girlfriend at 18, a part-time job, sometimes 2 at a time, attending college, full of insecurities, self-loathing, and not knowing overall what the hell to do with myself. I was letting my high school friends influence my decisions way too much when it came to managing my relationship and my career path. Within the first year of being with my girlfriend, we would break it off. I was too flaky with my emotions, going back and forth of guilt of having sex before marriage.
Premarital sex is a sin. Have fun rotting in hell, Beth.
And then the furry eroticism, still.
Because this kind of gets to the heart of something that you've brought up a number of times, that these furries are all in denial about the sexual side.
Isn't there a sexual side to all this?
I'll tell you exactly what
that, then yes. Yes, there is.
I'll tell you exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
He's going to say, oh, there are certain people that are into that, but most of us aren't, and we know how to be family friendly and stuff, and it is not, you don't have to worry about that, basically. He's gonna gloss over the obvious sexual undertones and overtones of the furry fandom. And I don't care. I'm not here to kink shame, but I think you need to call a kink a kink. That's all there is to it.
A lot of shit that people have the opportunity to get over in high school, I was learning late in my early adult years, being that I never had much social life within high school settings. My career paths went from animator, designer, cop, to commercial artist. I should have given myself some time out of high school to figure out what the fuck I really wanted to do, instead of jumping right into college right after. Yeah, I learned a lot of shit I otherwise wouldn't at the time, but a lot of wasted time in classes that had absolutely no impact on me. Surprisingly, the intro police courses were not one of them, with all the stories and scenarios we would go over about police fucking up or getting fucked up. I was still a believer in God, and I would have these back and forths all the time over doing what I'm supposed to do, getting a wife, having kids, working a job that makes enough money to pay for those things, and I didn't fit that. There was a day I spent hours looking up porn. After realizing just how much time I was wasting versus drawing and writing, I had a breaking moment. I was just sick and tired of hating myself, my bi tendencies, my erotic fantasies, religious guilt. Though I would continue to be in denial of my own queerness, the other aspects I reconciled over with myself and said, God will have to understand this about me. He's God after all.
God will understand, my lord. And if he doesn't, then he is not God. And we need not worry.
Life is full of ironies, and when you learn to accept yourself, you in turn no longer find a drive and need to indulge in such things to an unhealthy degree like I was. How many homophobes are outed as not only homosexual themselves, but apathetic and abusive ones at that, because they never got over that self-denial all the way up to marrying the opposite sex and faking their way to having a family. A year later, I'd find myself no longer convinced there was any God out there. That was the start of my inhibitions being whittled away. Another thing most people get to grow out of in high school, I had to achieve during my college years by myself. Considering there was so much tied to having faith in a God, monogamy, marriage, the gays, and well, almost anything else you can think of that involves personal freedom while doing no harm to others.
If you're happy and you know it, that's a sin.
What real reason was there if not God? Irony strikes again. I wouldn't be as much of a queer, furry anti-theist if it wasn't for the first 20 decades of my life being raised a Christian and the strong, loud push for creationism being taught in schools around that 2008 to 2009 period.
Proponents of intelligent design claim that many features of living organisms are too complex to have evolved entirely through the natural process of evolution. They claim some aspects of those organisms must have been created, fully formed, by a so-called intelligent designer.
On top of the shame placed upon me indirectly by the church preaching against homosexuality and other forms of sexual deviancy within your own mind even. So your thoughts were enough to send you to hell. That can tend to fuck with your upbringing just a little bit. So to reiterate and to reinforce the fact that I am more of a furry bisexual deviant due to my religious surroundings and self-shaming than any fellow come-for-blood atheist furry could have ever hoped to make themselves. I still had a great fear instilled into me by past traumas of bullying in grade school and reading comments online regarding furries. Fear of my erotic tendencies being found out and used against me like I was living in a perpetual middle school environment. Fear of losing my job, career aspects, friends, family. So much energy and time wasted over inconsequential concerns. I allowed myself to be more curious of the public scene, keeping it on the down low as I still lived with my immediate family members and couldn't self-sustain economically. I was surprised to see a number of videos online showing them just hanging out in public, outside, dressed up, being cringy, and not giving a shit. Then I came across a local convention, Furry Connection North, happening in Novi, Michigan. 2009 was the event. They were having Tracy Butler as their guest of honor. Tracy Butler is a published author and artist of the Lackadaisy comic book series, later to be turned into an animated show entirely fan-supported in 2023. Here they are, being hosted by a furry convention of all things. Well, this person obviously isn't fearful for their future career prospects and becoming a living human pariah. Maybe there is more to this sort of thing. There was some reservations in going still. I already had 10 years of bad experiences involving my peers in grade school, and I didn't want to risk having that paired with the amplification of the internet. I almost never interacted with strangers on forums and chat rooms. In fact, not a single person I interacted online was a person I hadn't met beforehand in the flesh. Very early on, I saw people on the internet as full of bullshit, and I didn't want to add to that. So with the very little presence I had, quietly posting artwork on DeviantArt and Fur Affinity, I made sure to not put myself in any position to lie or cover my own ass. No better way to do that than to not say much of anything at all. Well, the push to go to this convention would come in a very unexpected way. Frank was in trouble again over his alcoholism and started to talk of suicide due to the fact his lawyer lied to him in an attempt to scare him straight. He told Frank that he was for sure going to jail over this second DUI he picked up. It was just a matter of how long. This later admitted lie drove him to drink himself even more stupid in hotel rooms, ditching his work, thinking this was the end of his life as he knows it. He was also disappearing from his parents, who were coordinating with me to try and find him. After some convincing over the phone, saying, "You think your life is screwed up? I got something to show you." I got Frank to tell me where he was. The hilarious and hyperbolic shame that I carried with me over the years involving drawing sexy animal cartoon people was going to be brought to his doorstep. Here I was showing off my dirty little secret to him. You need to understand, this is one of the few people that knows everything about me since high school and before we knew each other. We've been friends for almost 10 years at this point, and all our little details from childhood up into current day are all laid out to bear to each other over the course of this time. All except this one thing I was in denial about in elementary school before I had internet access, and sometime after I was in my college years. Well, after that reveal, I spent the night sleeping on the floor of this roach-infested motel, Next day, the lawyer revealed to Frank that the truth was that he would likely just get another probation period, and in fact things worked out pretty well because the lawyer would often go to barbecues with the judge he was facing that week. I had yet another emotional moment to face coming home. A text message was somehow sent to my mom, giving her the impression that I might be going out to commit suicide myself. I can only paraphrase that I said something along the lines of, "I'm sick of this, it's over, I'm done, I've had enough." My dad had to calm my mom the entire night, assuring her that I was a lot smarter than that. After coming home to distraught parents, knowing how my moods were at the time, I probably sat in the dark basement listening to Nine Inch Nails for an hour or so. His behavior was affecting me, affecting my ability to work. I would have to clock in at the AV Tech job with only 3 hours of sleep that day. Later, this normie friend of mine would insist that we go to this convention. I told one of my coworkers a few weeks later that I was going to this, and this is how the conversation played out. "Aren't those people that dress up in animal costumes and dry hump each other?"
Feels kind of amazing.
Yep. "Aw, hell no, Andy. Aw, hell no. Andy, no." No one better than to openly express it. My excuse was that I was going there just to film video for the internet. This was true. I had no angle though. I just wanted to capture some moments and talk to people while wearing the veneer of an undercover independent journalist for those looking from the outside. Mainly because I was still worried about the stigmatization from strangers. What if I run into someone that knows me? Or someone sees me and outs me to my family? What if they see what I recorded?
Don't make fun of me, don't make fun of me. When people make fun of me, sure.
Frank went on medication to keep himself sober for the next 6 months, cleaned up a bunch, and then the convention came. After registering for a day pass, we later got an entire weekend pass, sold on the convention offer of free beer. We were at first mistaken as radio DJs undercover, which was very amusing. Previously, there were attempts of some local radio jockeys trying to get on the street interviews who were ejected from the event, so a couple of mildly out-of-shape guys with button-down shirts fit the description, I guess. After we upgraded our passes, one of the operational managers came out and apologized for their assumption, to which we didn't even have a clue. Frank decided this would be a great time to break his sobriety and took advantage of the local bar and free beer. My experience handling a camera for projects I did in high school and college, as well as filming events for my dad's band, Animals of the Night, allowed me to have confidence filming events and interviewing artists. Even got to interview one of the prominent figures at the time we heard of the day before, to the Ranting Griffin, who was a stage comedian. Frank had fun. A little too much fun. He got so wasted he was kicked out the first night and had his badge revoked.
"Yo, here you go. Go fuck yourself. I'm king of ants. I'm king of bitches. Okay? That's my title. Here you go."
The ruse of just making a video pretending this wasn't my scene was dropped roughly within that first day too. First revelation was just how tame things were compared to what I expected. I was thinking there would be more kinky shit running around. Instead, it's somehow less extreme than most gaming and anime conventions you can go to. This is another thing I look back on in retrospect. This is a standard at conventions, having a strict conduct when it comes to revealing attire, or attire that may provoke more sexualization in the mind. There really shouldn't be this much restriction on people, actually. My resistance of going was not because of kinky sexually flaunting individuals. It was the stigma that is placed upon kinky sexually flaunting individuals, a trait that clearly included me. A stigma that shouldn't fucking exist, which having complete apathy towards strangers' critiques of you is a good step forward. And this is one of those things where a lot of furries will try to virtue signal about, comparing themselves to others in order to find appeasement to those who would likely never accept them on a general level.
A majority of furries are not interested in the sexual side. There are the few that are. However, there's nothing wrong with that.
See, that's just lying. Why do you see? This is my problem that I have with. Why are you lying to people about what their kids are getting into? See, that's what bothers me. It's like, not look, dude. At this point, you're past like whether or not you believe that most people are into the kink or whatever. Like, you're giving you're literally saying, hey, parents, I'm the guy to look at if your kid becomes a furry and then telling them it's not a fucking sex dungeon. Like, you don't think parents need, oh yeah, there are some people who are into it. Or no, he just said, he even used even more qualifying language. There's a few, bro. Come on.
There's a couple people might stumble in there and be like, you know what?
It's like, just be what you are, but don't lie to people about it. Like, don't do that. That's just scummy. I think there are furries that are somehow desperate to be like accepted on a level they're never going to get accepted anyway. It's like, what are you going after, the Christian conservatives? They're never going to be on your side anyway, dude. And you've already got the rest of us. Like, I'll make fun of you to my heart's content, but I ain't going to stand out and protest against you.
Yeah,
getting
we're not all
for
showing
Yiv
up at,
Fest.
yeah, that's way too much work. In
We're
fact,
not sending the goons to Anthrocon to fucking bust kneecaps.
if anything,
Like,
we're starting to
don't give a
think
fuck.
we're starting to think like, man, can we like make some money off these people?
You want a safe space where you don't have to worry about seeing a guy wearing a leather pup hood and a disgusting looking but clean diaper. All right, stay home then. Find a babysitter for your kids too. Let adults be adults, even if that involves dressing up as Renamon and fucking your dad in the ass after the fursuit parade. Thank you. Second revelation was there was a lot of gay people here. Up until this point, the only gay people I saw were very flamboyant, and the others I saw were on TV.
Tell me about it, you feisty little shih tzu.
It certainly didn't lead up to anything else, and I don't know why you think it would. I was already experienced with Adobe Premiere thanks to my dad getting a specialized rig for himself back in 2003. Wielding that privilege, I got myself some attention with convention videos, memes, and artwork I was doing for people. I was invigorated. Some of my final projects in college and my video and art classes were just unapologetically furry based. Some searching on the internet helped me come across a forum for local Michigan furs, which led to me attending some fur meets. Before I knew it, I had an actual circle of friends, general respect, and the ability to make up for all those years of growth you normally would get in grade school. Got into my first poly relationship with a girl, later figured out my bisexuality, leading to my first boyfriend, and then overcoming my last remaining insecurities I had holding me back as I found more new people I could be fully honest and open around. The next 2 years were a rush of partying, convention attending, and video making.
Get down, you little flower, the fool in the sense tonight, kimochi.
There was some heartbreak, some cringy moments, some regrettable moments too, but altogether, the past 15 years have been pretty good. Many things would come together that otherwise would have never happened. My confidence was boosted to the point I was fursuiting at public events with only 1 or 2 people with me. I had no qualms about explaining this shit to my other best friend when he got out of the army and took him to a few meetups. I won an editing contest for Anthrocon in 2009. My parents were actually proud showing it off to people with no explanation given to them to what any of this shit was. Nowadays, I almost think you would have to explain it to them. But nonetheless, I was never confronted about it in any negative way, probably because I didn't make a big deal about any of it, and I wasn't disappearing or getting hooked up on drugs or whatever. It was hard to do, but all of this sparked a new-founded ambition in me. There would be a number of growing sacrifices in terms of where I spent my energy and time, improving my art, video skills, work, college, pursuit of a meaningful romantic partner, and focusing on getting out of my parents' house to live life as I please. After a few more failed relationships, I found my first of 2 husbands in 2011. I would come out officially in person to my dad and mom, who would be accepting despite their misgivings about it. I'll save those details for another time, but let's just say I treated my first gay relationship as nonchalantly as everything else, thinking it was no big deal. Not so much when it comes to the gay shit, still at that time. With my second relationship, I was preemptively prepared for the worst just in case, so the day I came out was also the same day I was moving out of my parents' house. Despite not being in a sound financial situation to do so at the tender age of 25. I would later drop contact with a former abusive alcoholic friend. Believe me, it actually did him more good than it would, enabling him further. It's not just the depressive episodes, but a number of assaults he didn't even remember. And one thing he said to me will always stick in my brain. Look, I don't give you shit about all that weird gay furry stuff you do, alright? So don't give me any shit about my drinking. I further gained more people skills, working a insane commission sales job for a network marketing company, another word for scam, and then I worked for a call center. And after that, I landed a position as a machine tech in agriculture with the help of a couple of other furry friends that I made through our second husband. And throughout this time, I got to meet a lot of interesting people because of my first husband, people I never would have interacted with otherwise. All of this effort and heartache and pain, including hooking up with other individuals that led to better career opportunities for himself and then later myself, put us into a better place that ultimately allowed us to help elevate other friends as well. Whether they had to leave their home in short notice because the owner sold the property from under them, being outright homeless, or they were just sick of living in Florida. We even ended up adopting a pet from a friend whose landlord wouldn't allow pets. Our good boy has been with us for about 2 years now.
You ready for a walk? Wanna go for a walk?
Come here. Car ride. Yeah. It's time to go for a ride. We're gonna go hike. Yeah.
The only thing that's missing now is a few well-made fursuits for myself. Instead, we got a house. And a new car! A life I otherwise wouldn't have had if I didn't go to that convention all those years ago, despite my fears, despite not knowing a single person in that scene. Literally the second and third nights, I just went there by myself, recording everything. There are many times I can look at the paths not chosen. I could have easily married the first woman I was with and gone down the path of denial and practicality. To me, I see it as nothing other than that. How much of a bitter, sad life would it have been? I can thankfully say we will never know. Summing all of this up, what is this ultimately about? Many moments stepping out of my comfort zone led me to a better place. In grade school, it was the dances and parties my best friends brought me to despite my protests. I was basically dragged there, kicking and screaming to social events. As a young adult, it was going to that freaky, deaky, furry convention. My fears of outside judgments were unfounded. I ended up meeting and being part of things I will never forget. Relationships with people that were involved in building each other up and reaching a better place. Ended up working with people who served as a great inspiration to my own drive over the years. Now, despite my numbers on this mess of an online entertainment scene, I am able to pursue this passion full time. Fuck you, Mike Rowe. You got to live your dream as an actor and host of a long-running TV show, but apparently no one else should, right?
Dream jobs are usually just that. Dreams.
Prager, you sellout motherfucker. Yes, a lot of it was luck, some of it was privilege, and some of it was hard work. To make it clear, I am under no illusion that this doesn't happen to a lot of people. Many who are far more skilled and intelligent than me often don't even get to attempt what I'm doing right now, all due to the circumstance of their birth, if that potential is even painfully realized at all. How many of us are trapped in drudgery to the point our brains just rewire itself to be an autopilot, going through the same routines and in order every day, just for the sake of mere survival? We could have just as easily ended up in a similar position at many key points of our lives. But that's a story for another time. I know, right now, this could be a peak before a sudden downward spiral into the gutter. If this is a peak, it's a pretty good peak. And none of it would have ever happened if I didn't go the fuck outside and touch some grass.
Subscribe to the damn channel and share it around. I got a store for art and other creations of mine. Patreon to get some extra perks while helping me feed myself. Paws Off gaming channel with a talking weasel. And Weird Source for cringe furry shit you love.